산업혁명 이후 풍요로운 삶을 누리던 인류는 온실가스 증가로 인류 생존을 위협받고 있습니다. 이제 우리가 나아갈 길은 에너지 혁명입니다.
기후위기의 극복은 전 세계의 공통 언어가 됐습니다. 세계 주요국은 넷 제로를 목표로 잡고 실현하기 위해 노력하고 있습니다.
기후변화 대응으로 기후기술을 통해 탄소 중립 추진이 구체화되는 지금, 기후산업을 선도하고 국제적 논의의 장이 될 기후산업 국제박람회가 대한민국 부산에서 열립니다. 세계 각국은 환경 규제와 무역 장벽을 높이고 탄소 저감 혁신 기술 투자를 강화하면서 저탄소 경제를 위한 기후 기술과 청정 에너지 개발을 가속화하고 있습니다. 이제 기후 산업은 선택의 문제가 아닌 경제적 생존과 기후 위기 극복을 위한 필수 과제입니다. 기후 위기 대응을 위해 함께 고민하고 대안을 모색하는 교류와 협력의 글로벌 플랫폼이 무엇보다 필요합니다. 인류 생존을 위한 에너지 혁명, 세계로 퍼져나가는 기후산업, 미래를 향한 글로벌 플랫폼 구축, 기후위기를 넘어 지속가능한 번영으로 가기 위해 대한민국 기후산업 국제박람회에서 전 인류에게 더 나은 미래를 향한 비전을 제시해 나가겠습니다.
네, 안녕하십니까.
Good morning. I am Cho Ju-yeon, and I will be leading you throughout the opening ceremony of the World Climate Industry Expo.
네, 이렇게 주제 영상
As we have seen in the video, we are here today to wish for the quantum leap of the climate industry, and we do have many students in the audience, and they are enthusiastically cheering us on. In order to respond to climate change here in Busan, we are looking forward to global cooperation to start off our solutions. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges at hand, and this is actually an issue on which the current generation and future generations' survival and prosperity pivots. In order to contribute to climate change solutions, the Republic of Korea continues to make efforts to achieve the goal of innovative carbon neutrality. At this expo, we are here to showcase world-renowned technologies in this field. Thank you very much. Let us now take this opportunity to invite the distinguished guests who have honored us with their presence to listen to the meaning of WCE. First, on behalf of the Korean government, we have His Excellency Han Duck-soo, Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea. Please welcome the Prime Minister with a big round of applause.
존경하는
Beloved people of the Republic of Korea and distinguished guests from home and abroad, here in Busan, filled with passion and innovation, we are here to host the 2023 World Climate Expo Industry. I do believe it is very meaningful. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Director General Patti Virol of IEA and Professor Richard Mueller for accepting our invitation as keynote presenters. President Stephen Johnson of the New York Times Company International, His Excellency Ambassador Sven Oling of Denmark, thank you very much for joining us today and welcome. At this exhibition, we have invited international organizations and members of the government, along with 500 companies from home and abroad. This is the largest scale of its kind. Thank you to Mayor Park Hyung-jun and Chairman Choi Tae-won of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry for hosting this event. Thank you very much for your efforts. Beloved people of the Republic of Korea, climate change is directly related to the very survival of humankind. And it will also become an enormous threat to sustainable growth of the global economy. As a responsible member of the international community, we must implement responses to climate crises and also carbon neutrality. Of course, the path will be quite painful, but if we change our paradigm, we believe that it can also have a large possibility as a new growth industry. The global economic order is quickly transforming into low-carbon economy. Major countries around the world and global companies are currently investing in the development of clean energy as well as ways to mitigate carbon emissions. This is a way to secure competitiveness in the climate industry. Korea is also accelerating our efforts. During the last year, the Republic of Korea has worked on recovering the nuclear energy ecosystem to normalize the energy policies that have been distorted in the past. The private sector should take active part in achieving carbon neutrality and creating a growth engine. Last April, we have announced the first base framework plan for carbon neutrality and green growth, and this reflects the determination of the Korean government. In Korea, our industries are full of carbon-intensive industries such as steel and petrochemicals, and therefore it is not an easy task that we have at hand. However, thanks to the global technology and outstanding human resources that we possess in Korea, will become a firm foundation for the industrial transformation towards low carbon. The government will actively support the research and development of innovative breakthroughs that will help the carbon-intensive industries. And we will continue our multifaceted efforts to enhance energy competitiveness. And in order to improve the abilities of the industry, we will continue to expand our investment incentives. EVs and hydrogen cars, which will lead the eco-friendly mobility revolution, will also be an area where we accelerate our investments. Distinguished guests from home and abroad, the era of carbon neutrality is just around the corner. We will continue our full-fledged investment and support for the development of the climate industry. We will listen to the industry, and we will also conduct regulatory reforms as needed. The WCE here today, I hope, will become a platform for us to think about the solution forward through international dialogue for the innovation of the climate industry. Busan, which is transforming itself as a low-carbon green city, I hope will become a powerhouse to lead the consensus within the international community towards a global transformation. And I hope that today's WCE will become the momentum to win the bid for Busan Expo 2030. Thank you.
네, 한덕수
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Han Duck-soo, for your opening remarks. He is also the chairman of the Hydrogen Economy Committee. Thank you very much for your remarks. Next, we will invite Chairman Choi Tae-won of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry for his remarks. Please welcome the chairman with a big round of applause.
Good morning. I am the chairman of KCCI, Choi Tae-won, Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, Busan Metropolitan City Mayor Park Hyung-jun, and ministers, governors, mayors from all over the world, and all other distinguished guests. I wholeheartedly welcome you to the World Climate Industry Exhibition. I had always thought that hosting an exhibition on climate neutrality and the climate industry would be an outstanding opportunity for all of us, and it is indeed a great pleasure to host this event with the government. This May, we're seeing record high warm weather. We are already experiencing global warming, warm weather in May. The global temperature is rising much faster than anticipated. And carbon neutrality to overcome the climate crisis is now being realized in all areas of our society, such as the economic sector, industries, trade, and job creation. Starting with the US and Europe, laws such as the IRA and the NZIA, which are laws promoting carbon neutral industries and carbon market creation, are being enacted. And the importance of the environment is gradually increasing in international multilateral agreements as well. And the comprehensive and progressive agreement for this Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, the world's largest multilateral free trade agreement, 20 out of 30 chapters are filled with environmental provisions. In the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, IPEF, countries are discussing monitoring of environmental regulations compliance and self-verification of compliance. Since the 1990s, Korea has enjoyed a more than six-fold increase in per capita GDP. So indeed, Korea has achieved remarkable economic growth, but in this process, carbon emissions have also increased significantly. Korean companies have been responding by implementing commercialized reduction technologies to improve carbon emission efficiency. However, achieving carbon neutrality requires disruptive innovation. So you probably have looked around the exhibition today, and you can see that there are already a lot of different types of technology, and the technology will have to lead to disruptive innovation. For instance, in the steel industry, coal, and other manufacturing sectors, we need innovation. And according to a study done by KCCI, the actual benefits of carbon neutrality in South Korea are projected to outweigh the investment costs in a golden cross scenario by the year 2060. So we have to wait until the year 2060. However, even in the midst of a crisis, opportunities can be found. McKinsey, in its report, has analyzed that a carbon market worth 900 trillion won will open up by 2030. So we believe that by seizing this market, we can sufficiently advance the timeline for achieving the carbon neutrality golden cross. When new ideas are combined and implemented, great changes and innovation can be achieved. In the process of realizing the ideas, businesses can find new opportunities. This exhibition is a venue to showcase such new opportunities and a venue where businesses can grasp such opportunities. I hope that the WCE serves as a platform for gathering the various ideas in the climate industry to create innovative solutions and new business opportunities. As you may know, Korea is working hard to host the World Expo 2030 in Busan. And the main theme of the Busan Expo is transforming our world, navigating toward a better future. And a solution platform is what the Busan Expo wishes to achieve and promote. Within this solution, that would include tackling the challenges faced by humanity, among which the most pressing would be the issue of climate change. So, having said that, I look forward for the WCE serving as a new starting point for a better future of carbon neutrality and a path leading us to the 2030 Busan Expo. I sincerely hope that this expo will be held successfully with the enthusiasm of the Busan citizens and that it will lead us to the hosting of the 2030 World Expo. Thank you.
네, 정말 뜻깊은
Thank you very much for the congratulatory remarks. Thank you very much to Chairman Choi Tae-won once again. Next, we will be inviting Honorable Park Hyung-jun, Mayor of Busan Metropolitan City, for his welcoming remarks. Please welcome the mayor with a big round of applause.
네, 여러분 반갑습니다.
Pleased to meet you. We are here at the WCE 2023, and thank you very much to His Excellency Han Duck-soo, Prime Minister of Korea, whose outstanding leadership has guided us to this event. Thank you also to the ministers and vice ministers from Korea and members of the Business Circle, Chairman Choi Tae-won, and scholars from around the world. I would like to welcome you to Busan and thank you for joining us here in Busan. The WCE, hosted under the theme Rising Above the Climate Change Towards Sustainable Prosperity, presents a rare opportunity to explore the latest technologies and policies on the environment and energy that have been developed to respond to the climate crisis. It is a very unique exhibition. The WCE will serve as an opportunity to raise Korea's profile in the world as a leader in the climate industry and empower Busan's bid for the 2030 World Expo. Korea aims to make the 2030 Busan World Expo an event that will present visions to bring about a better future for all. In this regard, I look forward to the WCE serving as an ideal opportunity to demonstrate Korea's active engagement in regards to climate change responses as a responsible member of the international community and affirm its full potential and commitment in finding solutions to achieve mutual growth through global solidarity. As one of the key exhibitors of this event, the Busan city government aims to showcase our own capability on climate responses, including relevant infrastructure and technology developments. The Busan city announced its vision to become a leader within the global climate industry and is currently marching towards achieving the goal of reducing carbon emissions. Our goal is to reduce emissions by 47% by 2030 and also become a carbon neutral city by 2050 when Korea aims to become carbon neutral. In particular, the city government is linking city policies with all sectors, including energy, transportation, and environment, with its environmental and climate response. Furthermore, Busan has also joined hands with UN Habitat, a first in the world, to build the world's first self-sustaining floating city for climate refugees. In front of the designated area for the future Expo, we are already working on establishing a self-sustaining floating city, including various transportation technologies, and we are making great efforts for a successful project. In addition, we also plan to connect the potential land of the new airport with the Expo site through the urban loop that will be comprised of hydrogen trains that will travel at a depth of 40 meters underground. By utilizing various advanced technologies, we do hope that Busan can become a leading city in climate responses. I hope that for the next 3 days of WCE here held here in Busan. We look forward to exploring the present and future of carbon neutrality in Busan and Korea, and we look forward to your active support for Busan's bid for the 2030 World Expo. I warmly welcome you to Busan. Thank you very much.
네, 박형
Thank you very much, Mayor Park Hyung-jun of Busan Metropolitan City. He mentioned about how Busan hopes to serve as a venue for cooperation. Next, I would like to invite President Stephen Durnba Johnson of the New York Times Company International for his congratulatory remarks. Please greet him with a big hand.
안녕하세요.
Good morning.
It is I would like to thank you and congratulate Prime Minister Han Duck-seo for championing this important gathering on what is the biggest existential challenge facing all of us here on this earth. It's great to see so many young people here because it is your future that is at stake. I would like to thank Mayor Hyung-jung Park for hosting us in this beautiful and very dynamic city. It's my first time here. I've been to Korea many times, but it's been a great pleasure visiting your city. It's a fabulous place. Thank you. And I'd like to thank Chae Tae-won, the chairman of the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for his strong and influential leadership, which has been so important, and in the backing and promotion of Busan for the World Expo site, which I wish you the very best of luck for that. It's also a great honor to be here with Professor Richard Muller, who was a previous climate skeptic, I think I'm right in saying, and is now doing so much to galvanize action in climate change. So thank you. It's a great honor to be here with you today. I am also delighted that the New York Times is participating in the World Climate Industry Expo here, and that we're going to be convening 2 afternoons of talks that will focus on how we can meet the climate challenge and, most importantly, how we can scale solutions. It's going to be the first time the New York Times will have convened a live climate event in Asia, and I think it's entirely appropriate that we're doing so here in South Korea and specifically here in Busan. As you will see, the Expo here is so appropriate because South Korea is the cradle of much of the innovation and technology that is going to be so badly needed going forward. And I hope to see many of you at our new climate sessions in the conference center downstairs over the coming 2 afternoons. South Korea is where we at the New York Times have our Asia newsroom. This is our home in the region. We chose South Korea because of its broad acceptance and championing of a free press, because of its high level of education, because of your superb technology and communication links, and because of your business-friendly approach. Now, I think we've been here, I think I'm right in saying, about 2.5, maybe 3 years, and every day that passes validates the decision to base our Asia operations here in South Korea. All to say, we are thrilled to be amongst you, and congratulations and thank you so much for hosting this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words, Mr. Stephen Dunbar Johnson. 네, 뜻깊은 자리를 함께하고
Thank you very much. We have just heard from President Stephen Dunbar Johnson of the New York Times International. Thank you very much. And now it is time to take a look at a special performance by the Busan Metropolitan Dance Theater. We can already hear the support of the people for the Busan Metropolitan Dance Company. And the theme of the performance is the importance of the energy transition and the importance of meeting the challenges of climate change. So please join me in welcoming the Busan Metropolitan Dance Company. Please greet them with a big hand.
네, 다시 한번
Once again, a big hand. It was indeed a powerful and dynamic performance by the Busan Metropolitan Dance Company. I do hope that their message was clearly sent out. Thank you. And now it is time to invite our distinguished keynote speakers for their keynote address. There are two speakers that we have invited. First of all, Executive Director Bati Biror of the International Energy Agency will first deliver his keynote on the state of the energy transition, implications for energy security and geopolitics. Executive Director Bati Biror is a well-known economist and an energy expert. He was selected by Forbes as one of the most influential people in the field of energy. He also serves as the World Economic Forum's Energy Advisory Committee chair. Let's take a look at the video keynote address delivered by the executive director. Please greet him with a big hand.
Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be with you, even virtually, in the beautiful city of Busan. The International Energy Agency is honored to have been invited by Korea to contribute to this important gathering. I will share some of my thoughts with you, but my colleague, our Director for Energy Markets and Security, Mr. Keisuke Sadamori, is there with you, and he will also share his thoughts and some of the findings of the IEA's work in a few minutes. The World Climate Industry Expo comes at a crucial time in terms of our efforts, global efforts to reach our 1.5 degrees climate target. Korea has been a key player at international fora to help the other countries and working at home to reach our climate goals. Dear colleagues, dear friends, when we look at the global picture, we see that there are new reasons to be optimistic about the fact that we may indeed reach our climate goals. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, the impact of this invasion was so strong in the energy markets. On one hand, we have seen energy prices going up, and on the other hand, we have seen the clean energy transition is turbocharged. I will give you a couple of numbers, what happened in the last 1 year in the clean energy transition context. Let me start with renewables. Solar, wind, when I look at the renewables, we see that the renewables in 1 year, the new additions to renewables generation increased by, in 1 year, 25%. Mainly driven by solar, but also wind, we have seen a major, huge growth in renewables across the world. Second, another clean electricity generation technology, nuclear power. Dear colleagues, I can tell you that what IEA has said some 2 years ago has been confirmed. Nuclear is making a strong comeback around the world. And as a result, in the last 1 year, we have seen nuclear capacity additions globally reached about 40%, a major growth in many countries in the world, including Korea. Heat pumps. Many countries, many economies, when we look at the heat pump sales, in US, in Europe, in China, very, very strong. In United States and in many countries in Europe, the sales of heat pumps overtook the sales of gas boilers for heating our buildings. And I can assure you that the Korean companies are very active in terms of heat pump manufacturing. Another area is electric cars. Globally, there is a huge growth of electric cars. China is the leadership here, but also in Europe, in United States, and everywhere. And in the last 1 year, the electric car sales in 1 year increased by 55%. And when we look at the future, we see that this will continue to grow in all key global car markets. In Europe, there is a big growth. In US, the growth will be much stronger with the Inflation Reduction Act. China is a leader, but I see that the Korea is making strong efforts here, and our numbers show that in Korea, last year, the electric car sales increased by a strong 50%. Very strong growth as well. And energy efficiency, another important indicator for turbocharging of global clean energy transition. Energy efficiency improvement last year was 2 times higher than the previous averages. So to sum up, dear colleagues, we are seeing that the clean energy transitions, renewables, efficiency, nuclear power, electric cars, they are going very, very strongly, and which means, as a result, the share of fossil fuels are in a decline. They will not disappear from one day to another, but if we are serious to reach our climate targets, we have to see the share of fossil fuels to go down, and the clean energies, such as renewables, such as nuclear power, such as electric cars, need to go up. So these numbers are very impressive, but I can tell you that we still have to make a lot of efforts to accelerate the clean energy transition. And I very much hope that the meeting, this Expo you are organizing today in the beautiful city of Busan, will give an inspiration to many of us to accelerate the clean energy transition. Dear colleagues, I would like to finish my words by one final observation. Installing solar panels is good. Having new electric cars is good for the climate change, or erecting new windmills are good for climate change and also energy security. But we should also think, who is going to manufacture those clean energy technologies? Which countries? And where will the critical minerals to manufacture these products come from? When we look at the current situation today, globally, we see that there is also a concentration of availability, refining, and manufacturing of clean energy technologies and critical minerals. As far as the critical minerals are concerned, the demand for the critical minerals from lithium to cobalt will increase several times. International Energy Agency recently published a study. This is the, as they call it, this is the Bible of critical minerals, to show how much the need for the critical minerals will grow in line with the growth in the clean energy transition. In fact, this study, which became the reference book for the energy industry, for the investors, for the companies, is carried out by my Korean friend, colleague, Tae-yoon Kim, at the IEA, and it shows that there is a need to increase the attention for critical minerals, bringing them, extracting them, and also refining them and manufacturing them. International Energy Agency considered this issue as an energy security issue, an emerging energy security issue as well. Dear colleagues, to finish my words, we are seeing a new clean energy economy is emerging. And here, for the companies around the world, there is a golden opportunity, business opportunity to invest in the different parts of the supply chains of the clean energy technologies, and the International Energy Agency's work provides a roadmap for the governments, for industry, for the investors to find out where they have a competitive advantage vis-a-vis others. Thank you once again for inviting International Energy Agency to your important gathering meeting today in Busan.
네.
We have just heard from Executive Director Bati Biror of the International Energy Agency. We thank him for providing us with his insight. It is now time to invite our last keynote speaker, and he is Emeritus Professor of UC Berkeley, Dr. Richard Mueller. He will be speaking on low carbon power, indispensable for clean and sustainable energy. Professor Emeritus Richard Mueller of UC Berkeley is a globally renowned physicist and expert of neutrino and nuclear energy. He received the MacArthur Prize and many other prizes. Please greet him up on stage with a big round of applause.
It is rare that I speak in front of such an important audience. I see here the people who are going to defeat global warming. Global warming is not an illness, it's not a disease, it's a war. It's the enemy, and we're going to fight it. And being at the Expo this morning and looking at what's going on and looking at you here, we're going to win. Now, let me take a moment to get my computer working. Today, I'm going to emphasize things that I'm going to avoid talking about things you already know. What I want to do is say things that are absolutely obvious, but perhaps were not obvious until you hear them. So that will be my theme. I know many of you are very expert in this field. And I will try to go quickly. It's a huge field, and in my 20 minutes, I will try to tell you what's going to be important while moving forward in order to defeat this enemy. This is global warming. These are measurements that were analyzed by a group that was founded by me and my daughter at a time when I was a skeptic. And we brought together some of the best data analysts in the world to take the world's data, scrape it off the internet, and do an analysis. Now, I was a skeptic. And after we did this, we found global warming is real. Many people said, ho-hum, I already knew that. And we can show that it was caused by humans. If there's anybody in this audience who doesn't believe that, I doubt that. But if you have friends and colleagues and important people who don't believe it, I am the best person to convince them. Like the ex-alcoholic who runs Alcoholics Anonymous, I am the ex-skeptic who knows all the arguments of the skeptics, and in our study, we explicitly addressed them. And we are now widely cited in the IPCC reports. So global warming is real. And we have failed. This is a record of the carbon dioxide from 1960s until now, when Keeling started making the measurements. And this rise was going up. And I became interested in this subject in the 1980s. There were these major reports of the IPCC. Now you might say they were successful because it might have gone like that. But it's very disappointing that we have not done better than this. Why? Is it because we haven't been trying? I'm going to go through my understanding and explanation for what we have been doing wrong. And I hope this will serve as guidance for the future. Here in Korea, I am seeing wonderful things. And I'm dazzled. As someone who knows the technology, I am dazzled by what I have seen at this Expo so far. It is wonderful. And yet, there are mistakes that lie ahead that we must avoid. As a favorite quote of mine attributed to Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity is repeating the same mistakes over and over and expecting different results. So we want to make sure what mistakes we made in the past, we don't continue to mistake. Enthusiasm and energy are not going to be enough. So I have what I call my 12 commandments of low carbon. Nickname is the 12 bewares. The word beware is tricky to translate to other languages because it's more than just be careful. You can be careful not to slip on a puddle. But beware is if you learn that a tiger has been released in your house, then you need to beware. So it has a great power in the English language that's not easily treated. And I'm going to give you the 12 bewares. Beware 1. We must get into a mode of problem solving. That means not a mode of blaming. If you want to blame me for global warming, please, let's get it over with. Let's ascribe the blame and then stop blaming. You can blame the industrialized world, the United States, the OECD. Good, blame them. Now stop blaming. The goal now is to stop global warming, to solving that problem. And we have to focus on problem solving. And here is the challenge. This shows a projection. I published this. This was in the Wall Street Journal some years ago. And it showed a projection of what was going to happen in carbon dioxide. And that's frightening, because carbon dioxide and the other greenhouse gases are indeed responsible. Human-emitted carbon dioxide is responsible for global warming. That I can convince any skeptic of, if that skeptic will listen to me. But here is the expected contribution from the developed world. And if we cut that to zero, then we will be on this curve, the red one, instead of on the black one. In other words, we will not stop global warming by ourselves. We must develop our technologies in such a way that the developing world will endorse them, will use them, will adopt them, will do so without subsidies. If we don't, if the United States and Europe and Korea, if we drop our emissions from here to here, so where there's zero, and then we are only on the rise of the developing world. Now, I am very much in favor of the rise of the developing world. Personally, I would love to see the entire world having the standard of living that we now have in Korea, in the United States, and Europe. That is a goal that we must support. Well, you don't must support it, but I support it. And that's going to take more energy. And if all that happens is that energy is coal, as it is now, and natural gas, and other carbon emitters, we will not stop global warming by cutting carbon emissions in the developed world. We will only delay it by 1 year. I never see this mentioned anywhere. It's very important. Whatever technologies we develop, we must keep in mind by saying, will they be developed? Will they be used in the developing world? In the IPCC report, most of the global warming in the future is going to come from the developing world as it develops. And that means we have to help them develop their economies at an even faster rate by using clean energy. So think globally, but act locally. But when you're acting locally, don't stop thinking globally. Keep in mind that whatever you do locally must impact the entire world. Not enough to reduce carbon yourself. You must reduce the carbon of the developing world. You must be, if you develop a technology, it must be one that's going to bring down the cost enough so the developing world will want to use it. Either that, or it has to be low enough cost already. I summarize this in beware number 3. If it isn't profitable, it isn't sustainable. A shorthand for that is whatever technology you're developing to produce energy, it must be cheaper than coal. The developing world has many problems other than global warming. They have poverty, hunger, education. They need lights at night so their young children can do homework and read in the evening. These are very serious problems that we in the developed world just take for granted. So I put it this way: whatever technology you're developing, can you make it cheaper than coal? Because if you make it cheaper than coal, the developing world will adopt it instead of coal. And we will put an end to global warming in a much shorter time than by doing anything else. Beware advocating discomfort and sacrifice. One of the errors made by a US president, President Jimmy Carter, was he told Americans that we needed to, in winter, turn down the thermostat so it'd be chilly in our homes, but put on a sweater. Make a sacrifice for the good of the world. Now, what he should have said was, add more insulation in your walls, turn up the thermostat to anything you want, but you will save energy and you will save money by putting more insulation in the walls. Many people did what Jimmy Carter asked. They put on sweaters, they turned to their thermostats, and they became non-supporters of future energy conservation. Energy conservation, green energy, can be done in a comfortable way, and we need to do it that way. Virtual signaling. This one is one I see all over in the United States, where somebody wants to know, what can I do? And what I tell them is support your politicians who are acting with a vision of the world. But people want to do things. They will eat the food they choose or something. They will compost their gardens so they feel that they're doing something. But that doesn't really advance the problem, which, as I said, is to make green energy inexpensive enough that the developing world will endorse it and use it with enthusiasm. The subsidy illusion. In California, we subsidize solar energy, and much of that is well spent because it can drive the cost of solar energy down. But some of it is spent subsidizing large solar thermal plants, in which I, as a technology person, don't see any way the cost will come down. They are bricks and concrete. And building them makes us feel good, but subsidizing it doesn't really achieve anything because the cost will not come down. So beware of that. And don't just develop technologies because they're clean and have money in them because they're clean. We need to develop clean energy that can be used and will be adopted around the world. Optimism bias is an odd one. I talked about this in my 2016 book, Energy for Future Presidents. Optimum bias means that you believe that the technology world can solve any problem except the ones you don't like. So if you don't like nuclear, they'll never make it safe. They'll never make it cheap. But if you say, what about solar? Oh, it's coming down. We have smart people. They can solve these problems. They can make it cheaper than coal. What about the need for backups? Batteries. Batteries are a major cost for intermittent energy. Oh, yes, we'll get better batteries. Just put our tech teams on it. What about nuclear? Oh, we can't solve those problems. This is an optimism bias. You're optimistic about things you choose and pessimistic about other things you choose. Beware of that. It can mislead you. An example here is the carbon tax. I'm probably the only person who is truly deeply concerned about global warming who does not think a carbon tax will solve the problem. And the reason is a carbon tax will raise the cost of energy. The government doesn't take any, it's neutral to the government, but you put a carbon tax on dirty energy and people are forced then to buy clean energy. Now that works if it drives the cost of clean energy lower, but it won't always happen. And in the developing world, they cannot afford a carbon tax because they can't afford more expensive energy. Some things really work. When I go to the developing world, I see that they are using compact fluorescent light bulbs and light-emitting diodes more than we are in the United States. And that's because it costs less energy. Electricity is expensive in the developing world. And they will get these lights because they are so much more efficient. So I see that, but that has to be the key. Regulatory uncertainty. This has been the biggest problem in the United States. The government and industry have acted as adversaries. I have seen this in so many things. I believe that the reason Korea leads the world in the development of nuclear power, and it does, is because your industry works together with your government to problem solve. Whereas so often in the United States, our government impedes the development of a technology. It's decided it doesn't like nuclear, and so we have regulations in the United States that are terrible and not changed. What I see happening here today is not just business taking on global warming, but a coalition of business and government, and half of the responsibility is in the government. You have a tradition in Korea, which we don't have in the United States, of having this coalition really work. And you serve as an example. And it's one of the reasons I'm at this conference, is just to understand this better and cajole the United States and other countries to doing a similar thing. I've said this before. For the developing world, we need energy affordability. That's the key, clean energy affordability. What I would like to see at the Expo is every booth explain how their approach will work, not in Korea, not in Busan, but will work in the developing world, in Africa, in the poorer parts of Asia, in Latin America. And that's, I didn't see at this Expo. And I would like to see that, because that is the key to really solving the problem. Capacity factor illusion, I just mentioned this quickly because you will often hear that this solar plant has a capacity of 100 megawatts. But it's only on 29% of the time because there's nighttime, morning and evening, and cloud cover. The world average is that a solar power plant that has a peak capacity of 100 megawatts on the average only delivers 29 megawatts. And batteries are very expensive. I saw some batteries today that I find very exciting at the Expo. We've got to bring the cost down. I think the lithium-ion battery is not going to be the key here. Lithium-ion is what you need if you need a portable cell phone, something that's lightweight, but other kinds of batteries, to develop these to use as backup for solar is what's going to make solar and wind really more effective. And there's this anti-nuclear bias. It is changing, as was mentioned earlier. Things are getting much, much better. When I got into this nuclear business 6 years ago, the issue was that, there are all these problems here, and none of them hold up now. I'll mention a few of them. The two biggest impediments, well, there were accidents. There were three impediments. There was accidents, there was cost, and there was the unsolved nuclear waste problem. But this is what you do in Korea. It's one of the cheapest forms of energy. And I believe this comes about because of cooperation between the government and industry. And it's a wonderful thing, and the world has to adopt it. And I'd love to see the United States adopt it. And I can tell you all about the problems in the United States that impede this. But that's not the purpose of my talk today, and I don't have the time in any case. This is a new point. I didn't see anything in the Expo for this. But we can offer 150 countries around the world energy independence, not just clean energy, but independent energy. Korea has a natural resource that is not being exploited. You are surrounded by uranium. It's in the seawater. And the technology if we're taking it out of seawater, is reaching a highly advanced stage. And it will not be done by industry alone because it costs 5 times as much to do. And so you cannot sell this on the open market because ordinary uranium is cheaper. But the cost of the uranium that goes into a nuclear power plant is only 2% of the cost. And if that becomes 10% of the cost, it's still not very important. This is a China's demonstration of a plant to extract uranium from the oceans. I think this is the future. I think countries around the world, certainly Korea has this as a natural resource. You have plenty of coastline, and you could extract it from around the world. I didn't see any programs here at the Expo on extracting uranium because it's not competitive. And this is where a coalition between the government, which has an interest in energy security and energy independence, and not depending on other countries for their uranium, this is where the government has to play a major role, and then industry can come in and support that. So yes, it can be done. It now costs 5 times as much to get uranium this way, but that price can come way down. Accidents, the new small nuclear reactors, every major nuclear accident that has occurred from Chernobyl to Fukushima has come about because of a nuclear meltdown. And these new nuclear reactors are highly resistant to meltdown. Some of them have fuel that just can't melt. Even if you were to put them in a furnace, they can't melt. They're refractory. Others have cooling systems where the cooling system depends only on gravity. Full disclosure, I have invented a nuclear reactor, a company called Geofission, that we put 1.5 kilometers underground. It has 1.5 kilometers of water above it. It is so deep that the pressure is given by the water column, not by a pressure plant. I'm not going to talk more about my nuclear reactor, but I'm very excited by it. Nuclear waste. I say the unsolved problem of nuclear waste. Well, it's not unsolved, it's solved. You have programs here in Korea that will work. There are programs around the world that will work. We're putting nuclear waste underground at the WIPP facility in the United States. It's only allowed by law to put down not commercial nuclear waste. That has to go to the closed Yucca Mountain. We have this law in the United States that nuclear waste from commercial plants must go to Yucca Mountain. Meanwhile, Yucca Mountain was closed, first by the Democrats, then by the Republicans. It's not going to reopen. So by law, we have no place to put nuclear waste. So we're storing it by the reactors. Full disclosure, I have also created another company that will store and dispose of nuclear waste in deep boreholes. And this company has been going on for 6 years, and we would love to work closer with Korea on this. We have a dozen other countries. We've been talking with people in Korea about this, but we're about to do a demonstration, and we'd love to have Korea be part of that. But enough of my own advertising. There is a fear of invention, and this is a bigger one than you might think. If you come up with a new kind of nuclear reactor and people are developing another one, they don't want to hear about a new kind of nuclear reactor. What if it's cheaper? What if it's better? It'll put them out of business. And they can't change very easily because of the way the government works. It's a long time frame. And finally, let's see what we have here. Don't wait for the US. Oh, this is a problem I come across, particularly in Europe, where people say, well, if your inventions are not approved in the United States, we're going to wait until they are. The United States is the slowest country in the world. I would say, if you want an example, follow Korea, not the United States. We need to change. We delay things, we hold things up. we make it very hard. It's beginning to change and get better, but it's only beginning to change. So, quick review of what I said. We've had 30 years of failure, and we have to address the developing world. We have to find solutions that are cheaper than coal. Industry and government working together, that's what I think this conference is about. That's what I see as the future. We've had 30 years of failure. We have my 12 bewares, things, traps you can fall into that will stop you from solving the problem. They may make you feel good, but you won't solve global warming. And with that, I will end and say, please contact me if you have any. I'll be happy to send these slides. If you want to copy the slides from me directly, hand me your business card and put down send slides. And I will send a copy of these slides to you. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your wisdom as well as your insight. 네, 기조연설까지 모두 듣고 나.
So we have just heard all of the keynote addresses, and this leads us to heighten our expectations for the WCE exhibitions and the conferences that will take place. Once again, a big hand, and ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for you to go visit the exhibition booths and participate in the upcoming conferences. Thank you very much for your participation.